Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Dapo Adegboye. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria's power grid collapses for fourth time in 2024. The federal government denies signed Samoa deal is linked with the LGBTQ. Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso irrevocably turn backs on ECOWAS. Details in a moment. Let's begin by telling you that Nigeria's power grid has collapsed again, with the country currently generating 0.80 megawatt of electricity. The electricity contribution further declined to 1020.08 around 3 p.m. before dramatically falling to 0.80 by 4 p.m. This is the fourth power grid collapse in 2024. Confirming the collapse, the Enugu Electricity Distribution Company plc said the incident occurred around 3:09 p.m. A public announcement signed by its head of corporate affairs, Emeka Eze, noted that the situation led to loss of power. Nigeria's federal government has described a recent report by the Daily Trust newspaper claiming that the recent bilateral agreement between Nigeria and the European Union, also known as the Samoa Agreement, seeks to promote the rights of lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and queer citizens as false, malicious, and misleading. Nigeria's Minister of Information and National Orientation spoke to newsmen in the nation's capital, Abuja, saying that the federal government will seek legal redress over the report, which attempts to mislead the public and portray intentions in bad light.
Nigerians, as well as Tinubu's government, and certainly in his directive to the ministry, did not authorize anything that is hurtful to our constitution, law, or sensitivities. We have not signed in the numerous cooperation agreements we have with different countries, US, through USAID, Japan, Korea, Asia, Latin America, and European countries. We have not signed anything that can undermine our constitution or laws, or have acquiesced to or agreed to any clause that are insensitive to our highly valued, revered religious values. Thank you.
Continue to provide information to the media as needed. And we also implore the media to please report only what is factual. The series of headlines we think that we have received from the newspaper in question has given us a cause for concern. We must say that. For me, as member of this industry, I'm really particularly pained that I have to come to address a particular medium in this regard. But it is important because we have made this pledge that we're only going to provide what is credible, what we know to be factual. The president and this administration will not in any way, and I repeat, the president will not sign or cause any of his officials to sign anything that will harm our nation. Not in any way. So all those clamoring that there is a signature out there that gives away our country as an LGBT compliant country or seeking to do that is mischaracterization, misrepresentation. The federal government insists that our laws will be respected, our norms will be respected, our tradition will also be respected, and our various faiths. The two major religions here are against it.
The governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, said that nothing will ever distract the attention of his administration to take its eyes off the ball in ensuring that Rivers people get the best of governance. Governor Sim Fubara gave the assurance while speaking with newsmen shortly after being conducted around the entire premises and structures of the zonal hospital, the Gema town, in the Gema local government area of the state on Saturday.
What we're doing is to assure people And it's not just about we giving them road, giving them other things. We need to protect them, give them quality health services. Like I said, my target for 2025 is going to be healthcare, education, and agriculture. And this is just a start. We are here to assure our people that no matter what it is, we still have our eyes on the ball. I will urge the good people of Dapo to continue to support us, that this government is purposeful and understand the need.
Staying in Rivers State, where some former members of the National Assembly known as Rivers State Caucus have expressed concerns about the political crisis in the state, just as they urged all well-meaning Nigerians to support Governor Sim Fubara and the mandate freely given to him by Rivers electorate, as affirmed by the Supreme Court, without fear, favor, or distraction. They asserted their recognition that the peace and stability of the state, a vital economic hub of the country, are under siege and rejected all forms of attempts geared towards undermining the progress and unity of the state under any guise.
We believe that the calls for a state of emergency are unwarranted and have every confidence in the government's ability to address any challenges that may arise. We trust in the capacity to maintain peace and stability in Rivers State. We reject all attempts to undermine the progress of Rivers State for personal gain and urge the people to reject and oppose such efforts. We commend Governor Sim Fubara's efforts to promote peace and development and urge all Nigerians.
As Delta State gears up for the local government elections, Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has assured residents a free, fair and credible process, urging politicians to adhere to the rules. Meanwhile, the State Electoral Commission held a parley with members of the Nigerian Union of Journalists in Asaba, the state capital. News Central's Austin Azu completes the report.
Barely a week to the local government elections in Delta State, political parties have intensified campaigns across 25 local government areas of the state. However, the state's electoral umpires leaving no stone unturned to conduct acceptable polls as it continues its sensitization and meeting various stakeholders across the state. The commission is here at the NUJ House, Asaba, to interface with a cross-section of the media in the state ahead of the polls.
So this workshop has been put in place to encourage correct reportage of elections so that the public is not misinformed about the conduct of the elections.
Our members need to be attuned with the trends and the laws to be guided so that they will be able to carry out their traditional function of unbiased reporting, objective reporting. They are the eyes of the society, and we need them to be conscious of this when they cover elections.
Secondly, we need to make sure that nobody is compromised in the election. We need to be active in our job to make sure that everything, the policemen, the security men, they are there at the polling units to make sure that everything is ready. And the election time, they start immediately, the materials are provided.
Also concerned about a peaceful poll is the state governor, Sheriff Oborevwori, as wants politicians to be tolerant of all divergent views, no matter the opposition.
This local government election, I'm telling all the candidates, not only in PDP, that it's going to be free, fair election. So if you think you just have, because it's a local government election, you are making a very big mistake. Do your campaigns very well, and the elections will be properly monitored. Because I believe in democracy.
The local government elections are bid to take place on Saturday, July 13th across the 25 local government areas in Delta State. In Delta, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's take you back to the story where we told you earlier that Nigeria's power grid has collapsed again, with the country currently generating 0.80 megawatts of electricity. The electricity contribution further declined to 1020.08 around 3 p.m. before dramatically falling to 0.80 by 4 p.m. Now, this is the fourth grid collapse being recorded in 2024. To discuss this, I am joined by the Managing Director, Idfon Power Engineering Consultants Limited. Thank you for joining me, Engineer Dapo. Now, let's get straight to it. I mean, this is another grid collapse. At some point, this seems to be like a regular. From an engineering perspective, what could be responsible for this constant collapse?
Thank you very much. A grid collapse will happen when there is an imbalance between generation, which is the supply side of electricity, and the demand. And what it affects is the frequency of the system. In Nigeria, the frequency is 50 Hz. And once there is an imbalance in generation and demand, there will be a grid collapse. So we can attribute the causes of such a grid collapse to many reasons. But ultimately, this is a national disaster. It is a national disgrace. We are not supposed to be having grid collapse in Nigeria. Since electricity was discovered over 125 years ago. The Nigerian power system is still in like the 1920 UK or US system. And it is actually a disservice to the nation that by now we still have grid collapse.
Let's talk about the recent reforms within the power sector. Let's take our mind, way back to the time it was privatized, and right now we have quite a number of players within this sector at different levels. We know that the recent Minister of Power did introduce even a tariff system such that you have band A, band B, and the likes. All of it in a bid to address some of the recurring problems within the sector. One of it includes infrastructure and liquidity being funding. Are we getting it right in any way, or is it just down the hill?
That's a very good question. By signing the Electricity Act 2023 as amended, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has actually put Nigeria through the renewed hope agenda on the right path. Because it is only through the decentralization of the power system that we can now more easily address this frequent grid collapse and also improve the power system. However, any policy is as good as the implementation. Once implementation is not right, then you will never get anything. So Nigeria has a lot of policies for various things for implementation. And I said to you, the implementation of power system policies has to be based on merit. If you don't have meritocracy in a system, if you don't have pragmatism and honesty, you will never get a power system right. So what do we have to do? There are simple things that can be done to prevent grid collapse. I have written about them. I have discussed them in many public fora, but listening to this technical submission is a problem in Nigeria. Professionalism is not taken serious in the whole country. That's why the power system is always down. In the power system where you don't want grid collapses, there are small things you can do to avoid grid collapses. One of them is adequate protection. The protection system in the Nigerian power network is nothing to write home about. And this is a panacea for grid collapse. I'm afraid grid collapses will continue with the present setup we have, where we do not have protection systems that are adequate. You also have vandalism. When you vandalize equipment, or you have equipment that are faulty, then you will have grid collapse. The system they are using now to monitor the grid itself is manual, if we may say, because we don't have a centralized data management system in Nigeria. Look, a country without data, data is life. Power system needs data. Nigeria needs data in every facet of its activity, even social investments. But come to power system, you need data. But when I pushed for this data 2 or 3 years ago, the powers that be, they just struck it out. Because without centralized data management system and a supervisory control and data acquisition system that is embedded in this CDMS, Central Data Management System, you are going nowhere with a power system. To have a power system that is functional without grid collapse, you have to operate it like they are operating it in the UK, in the US, in China, and other places in Europe where you have uninterrupted power supply. This means you will spend money in investing in your grid. You will strengthen your grid. You will meter all consumers, okay? And you have adequate protection. Now, the system has been decentralized. So we should be asking the governors of each state, where is your commissioner for energy? Where is your commissioner for power? What are you doing about investing in the power system in your state and helping the discos there to comply with the rules and also make power available to the people? I think the main thing I would say is that meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty, these are 3 key important factors for having a power system that is functional.
I mean, you talked about the powers that be. Just before I let you go, I mean, you are not the first person making reference to some sort of cabal within the power sector. Even the minister itself, that's the Minister of Power, has hinted on that. I mean, looking at all of the politics and politicking within the sector, how do you best think that we can navigate to get it right? 30 seconds.
We call a power system architect. The power system architect will report directly only to the minister, to the president. The power system architect will coordinate the multifaceted and multi-dimensional departments or entities that are required in the power system, including the accountants, the lawyers, the economists, the generators. Everybody that is participating, all stakeholders should be coordinated. Lack of coordination, people often wrong in Nigeria. And I'm afraid the only way is to have a power system architect, a sort of coordinating body that will report directly to Mr. President and give the guidance towards a successful. And this can be done in 6 months. The president wants within 6 months to get up to 6,000 megawatts. This can be done, adequate protection system, and also putting in place the right power system task force to implement this concept.
All right. Thank you so much for your time on the news. Engineer Adegboye is actually the Managing Director at Fund Power Engineering Consultants Limited. Once again, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Now, let's also tell you that several members of Nigeria's political elite have called for a radical approach to policy formulation and political reforms can help the nation achieve its objectives. This was during the Professor Emeka Umuera public lecture, which held in the nation's capital, Abuja, reviewing policies of the current administration and its impact on delivering good governance to citizens. News Central's Amadine Uyi tells us more.
It was a dialogue to x-ray challenges affecting Nigeria and profile wide-reaching recommendations aimed at repositioning the nation. The Professor Emeka Umuera public lecture attracted a wide array of intellectuals and members of Nigeria's political elites who highlighted some of the key challenges affecting the country.
These crises are basically the crisis of social justice, one, the crisis of productivity, and the crisis of public ethics. The crisis of social justice has 2 aspects. What we call the nationality crisis. Who are we? Can we just be one and move together? 2, the state religion crisis. How do we structure a balance that allows us as religious people, but at the same time allow a secular state organize in a secular, democratic manner.
If government has no business in government, why do we go through all the rigor, all the challenges we go through to elect a government? The market by its nature is not accountable except to the buyer and the seller. But we elect governments that are accountable, that we should be held responsible for our collective well-being.
Some in attendance say policies formed with Nigerians in mind and considering their peculiarities were more successful.
Nigeria was at its best when we formulated policies that were informed by the Nigerian condition and by the character of the Nigerian people. Up until that needless debate about whether or not the Nigerian state should surrender and we should delegate the market to regulate our lives. The more debate about structural adjustment program.
Others think a radical approach to policy formulation and political reforms can help the nation achieve its objectives.
Leading Nigeria requires navigating complex challenges and making decisions that may not yield immediate results or compliments. Mr. President is conducting himself as if he is not interested in a second term in office. He's making policies that, though not popular, I believe those policies will yield great fruits.
Only a radical transformation of our politics will help us permanently avoid this crisis. And these two facts is what inform my idea of a social contract or social compact as a programmatic framework to transform Nigerian politics from an instrument of predation and violation of rights to an instrument of freedom and prosperity.
The lecture with the theme Nigeria Yesterday, Today, and a Prosperous Future took time out to commend the renewed hope agenda of the current administration, saying it presents an opportunity for Nigeria to make hard-reaching decisions which will benefit the nation over time. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Nigeria's National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies has emphasized the need for continuous training of legislative staff to enhance their capacity to contribute to democratic governance. This was made known during the ongoing retreat for staff of the Niger State House of Assembly Service Commission. News Central's Idang Joseph tells us more.
Since the return of democratic rule in 1999, the legislature, as the hallmark of Nigeria's democracy, has helped to chart the course for good governance and accountability. For the legislature to perform its constitutional roles effectively and efficiently, there is a need for a competent and experienced workforce to support it.
Apart from being saddled with the responsibility of recruitment of staff, selections and promotion, discipline and performance evaluation of the staff of the legislature at subnational level, our Assembly Service Commission also plays a crucial role in the general condition of service, career progression, and providing a conducive environment for the effective administrative functioning of the legislature in our country.
For this purpose, staff of the Niger State House of Assembly Commission are being exposed to the necessary leadership skills required to carry out their role of managing the human resource of the Assembly for optimum performance.
In our fulfillment of our mandate as the only statutory capacity-building institution for the Nigerian legislature, and by extension in the ECOWAS sub-region, and as a driver of democratic excellence in Nigeria, deem it fit to organize this capacity-building workshop for the chairman, members, and other key staff of the Niger State House of Assembly Service Commission.
DG, sir, I want you to emphasize in the course of this retreat on the need for synergy. The Assembly Service Commission and the House of Assembly is one and the same. We're a bed of the same feather, we flocks together. You can only be a success if you're carrying us along. We can be a success too if we're carrying along.
While elected legislators at the state and national level are saddled with the responsibility of lawmaking, oversight, and representation, it is believed that these functions cannot be carried out effectively without the support of legislative staff. And so it is believed that events like this will help assembly staff with the right knowledge to discharge their responsibility. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
In northeastern Nigeria, the struggle for survival often forces children out of classrooms and onto the streets. Despite efforts to increase enrollment, many children find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty, trading education for street hawking. News Central's Umaru Kerawa assesses the situation and now has this to report.
This is the situation in most parts of the northeast Nigeria, particularly rural communities ravaged by the age-old insurgency, where some children hawk. Parents also send their children for miles in search for firewood, further compounding high rates of out-of-school children.
A lokacin muka hana an yanka yara shida nan sai muka gudu muka shekara uku muka bar gari wannan mun shiga gari bayan shekara uku tukuna muka koma.
The story of a 39-year-old mother of 7, Amina Abdullahi, has changed as she now accompanies her children to school after 5 years of abandonment.
An faɗa mana a yanzu talla bai da kyau an ba mu jari mun cire talla a cikin rai mu ba ma sake ba wa yaro talla sai dai mu gaya ko ƴaƴan makwabta da kuma sauran wasu abokan arziki talla ba shi da kyau kai kokari ka sa yaronka a makarantar da saboda shine garkuwanka a gaba.
Abdulrahman Ahmed, a child battling with disability, also now goes to school among his peers. A family enterprise grant provided to them is what is encouraging the rural dwellers send their wards to formal schools.
One of the key strategies that Street Child is implementing in this region through the support of Education Above All Foundation is to ensure that these parents have something to support themselves economically. So they do what we call cash transfers program.
The education of parents and economic empowerment approach to encourage enrollment, retention and graduation is said to be critical.
Last 9 years, we've worked with 3 other different agencies and managed to bring back to school in total about 648,000 out-of-school children. And with this current project with Street Child, it has been designed to bring back to school 42,000 out-of-school children in the 3 states of Borno, Yobe and Adamawa.
For Education Above All, we have 5 different arms which work on all sectors of education, including protection of it. And the Nigeria project is a lead up to that aspect, that we all globally come together to speak about the right to education for every child.
While ending the conflict remains the best strategy to provide an enabling environment for saving millions of lives, providing economic empowerment will go a long way to rekindle hope for vulnerable parents and children to be in school. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kerawa.
Coming up on the news, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso irrevocably turned backs on ECOWAS. We have details of this and more after now. Niger's military leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, on Saturday said that the people of his country, along with neighbors Mali and Burkina Faso, have irrevocably turned their backs on the West African regional bloc. Now, the comments came at the first summit of the Alliance of Sahel States, which coup hit Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso set up after pulling out of ECOWAS earlier this year. The 3 countries accused ECOWAS of being manipulated by former colonial ruler France, with Chiani calling for the new bloc to become a community far removed from the stronghold of foreign powers. The military leaders have all sought to reject Paris' influence, expelling anti-jihadist French troops and turning instead towards what they call sincere partners, Russia, Turkey and Iran. To discuss this, I'm joined by foreign policy expert Bolu Michael B. Bolu, thank you for joining me on the news. Let's take your immediate reaction to the alliance being formed by the coup-led countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, talking about the Alliance of Sahel States.
Well, it's been a long way coming, and it's not strange. Personally, I don't find it a strange development. I don't feel it's something that may have that should or may have happened earlier than now. Being that even when the ECOWAS asked them to return to the bloc, they shunned the invitation. They didn't send a reply. Looking at the moves of Mali, Burkina Faso acquiring military arsenals and weapons from Turkey and all that. I could foresee that they were going to form a bloc because AES itself is an economic and a defense bloc. So I think, is a strategic move because ECOWAS are meeting on Sunday, and this is coming on the eve of the summit. I think it's a strategic and deliberate move to have this summit, their summit by this time.
Now, let's talk about what this portends for the African continent, particularly the sub-region. What message do you think this sends across?
Well, it's a lesson. It's a lesson for other blocs. I hope other blocs will learn from ECOWAS in their approach, because I think the mistake that ECOWAS made at first was passing threats to these countries, and that's not how diplomacy works. The diplomacy is all about being persuasive rather than being aggressive. And I hope other blocs would learn from this and really get to understand and come to terms with the reality that we can't really tell countries what to do. We can only admonish them, we can only encourage them, we can only persuade them to make certain moves, and cannot use force in any way to have them do what you want them to do as a bloc.
Now, let's also look at the recent move by these leaders rejecting, Paris influence and, of course, expelling their troops. And for them, they claim that they're looking towards sincere partners, quote unquote, the likes of Russia, Turkey, and Iran. What does this signal?
It signals the fact that, countries that have kind of history, colonial history, cannot really be trusted, I guess, because if we look at these three countries, they don't have a colonial history in any way, and that's why they call them, I think that's why they call them trusted partners. And if you look at how they've been supporting them so far, they seem to be quite trustworthy. They're not holding anything back in terms of military intelligence or weapons. They want to acquire weapons, they offer them. Had it been maybe the US, they might say, oh, we can't offer you this weapon because it's classified as this and that. When Nigeria was fighting Boko Haram, remember that the USA, they were not willing to give us certain weapons, to fight these insurgents. And you say you are partners, so these new partners are being trusted because they are meeting their needs and making them stronger and helping them to develop and really be independent of ECOWAS.
Now, finally, before I let you go, Bolu, what do you think should be the next move of blocs like ECOWAS?
Well, the next move should be, the summits that ECOWAS have on Sunday. They will be talking about how they should relate with the AES, which is in a way a recognition of the bloc, and I think it's very important that they really have that discussion and tread softly going forward, maybe kind of absorbing them in a way and integrating them into regional cooperation. And it's going to be of mutual benefit because these AES states are three landlocked countries, that affects their economic development in a way. So they have to be friends with their neighbors to be able to carry out some economic transactions. So they could foster a mutually beneficial relationship, and I hope that ECOWAS will be open to absorb them into that mutual cooperation.
All right, thanks for your time, Bolu, and once again, congratulations on your lordship title from the Scottish family.
Thank you.
Royal family, that is. Once again, thank you. All right, now let's... Iran's reformist candidate, Masoud Pezeshkian, has advocated improved ties with the West. On Saturday, won a runoff presidential election against ultra-conservative Saeed Jalili. Now, the election came against the backdrop of heightened regional tensions because of the Gaza war, a dispute with the West over Iran's nuclear program, and domestic discontent over the state of Iran's sanction-hit economy. Pezeshkian received more than 16 million votes, around 54%, and Jalili more than 13 million, roughly 44%, out of about 30 million votes casted. Now, the death of ultra-conservative President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash necessitated the election, which was not due until 2025. The U.S. President Joe Biden insists that no one is more qualified to lead the nation or defeat Donald Trump than he is, swatting away concerns over whether he can beat his Republican challenger in November. Biden made this known in his first televised interview since his disastrous debate performance when asked if staying in the race against Trump might jeopardize Democrats holding on to the White House.
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me. I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right. And every single day, for example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu. I'm on the phone with the new Prime Minister of England. I'm working on what we're doing with regard to, in Europe, with regard to expansion of NATO and whether it's going to stick. I'm taking on Putin. I mean, every day, there's no day I go through, there are not those decisions I have to make every single day.
Let's join our business desk for today's business news.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for a significant shift from dependence on oil to other critical sectors with attractive investment returns in Nigeria. He identified agriculture, manufacturing, renewable energy and digital innovation, among other sectors, as potential investment ground to explore, saying they align with the nation's development priorities outlined in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The Vice President, who stated this on Friday during the Exiting Foreign Direct Investors Roundtable at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa in Abuja, noted that the 8-point agenda of the Renewed Hope administration of President Bola Tinubu signals diverse avenues for investment from agriculture to renewable energy. Nigeria is set to receive investments totaling $172 billion to develop various infrastructure sectors in the country. This investment, utilizing alternative financing options, will be allocated to mineral resources, energy, agriculture, housing, and transportation sectors for the next 22 years. The administration of President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed its commitment to enhancing foreign direct investment inflows into the country, while also promoting alternative financing for the construction of essential infrastructure projects. Last year, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Anite, said the government has secured $30 billion in commitments from foreign investors. The Kenyan government intends to borrow more money to fill the budget gap resulting from the President William Ruto's repeal of the Finance Bill 2024, which was supposed to produce 346 billion shillings in additional taxes. Addressing the nation on Friday, the head of state declared that the state will borrow 169 billion shillings and reduce government spending by 177 billion shillings to close the budget deficit for the fiscal year 2024 to 2025. This is critical in allowing its administration to hire junior secondary school teachers and medical interns, restart stalled road projects, maintain fertilizer subsidy programs, enable government-owned sugar companies to pay farmers outstanding debts, and settle the coffee sector debts in constituencies and counties. President Ruto has warned, however, that repealing the bill will slightly increase the government's fiscal deficit to 4.6% of gross domestic product, up from a previous objective of 3.3% of GDP in fiscal year 2024 to 2025. And that's all on business news. Many thanks for watching. I am Likon Onobanjo.
Up next is sports.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In sport, the Athletics Federation of Nigeria have released a 35-team squad ahead of the
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In sport, Nigeria have released a 35-team squad ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Headlining the list is 100-meter hurdles world record holder Tobiloba Amuson, Tokyo 2020 bronze medalist Ese Brume, Samuel Ogazi and Favour Ash. Mid-distance runner Eduse Ibadan will make history with his first appearance at the Olympics in the men's 800-meter. Aside Ibadan, Olayinka Olajide Omolara Ogumakinju, Israel Okon Sunday, hammer thrower Sade Olatoye, javelin thrower Prosper Chinecherem will be making their debut at the Summer Games. Team Nigeria will compete in 9 events comprising both the men's and women's categories and also the mixed 4x4 meter relay. The team will hope to better their Tokyo 2020 Olympics outing, where Nigeria finished 74th in the world and 8th in Africa with 1 silver and 1 bronze. It will be recalled Brume delivered bronze in long jump, while Blessing Oborodudu gave Nigeria silver in wrestling. And now to football, Serie A club Lazio have officially announced the signing of Super Eagles midfielder Fisayo Dele Bashiru on loan with option to buy from Turkish Super League side Atayaspor. The 23-year-old, who had joined Atayaspor as a free agent at the beginning of last season, is still under contract in Turkey until 2026, but he will be approaching the final year of that deal at the end of the 2024-25 campaign. Dele Bashiru arrived in Rome on Thursday and has since completed the necessary medical checks and contract signings. He scored 8 goals in the first Super League season, finishing as the club's joint top scorer along with Carlos Strandberg. In October 2023, he was called up to the Nigerian national team and scored on his debut in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying match versus South Africa, which ended 1-1 inside the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo. Away from there, England reached the semi-finals of Euro 2024 on Saturday after beating Switzerland 5-3 on penalties following a 1-1 draw in the last 8. Goalkeeper Jordan Pickford saved Manchester City defender Manuel Akanji's penalty, Switzerland's first of the shootout, while Cole Palmer, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Ivan Toney also netted. Breel and Bolo had given the Swiss the lead on 75th minute, but Bukayo Saka hit back in style for England 5 minutes later with 2 of only 3 shots on goal in normal time. The Swiss had the better chances in extra time, with the first 3 last 8 clashes in Germany now having needed 30 minutes more. Trent Alexander-Arnold scored a decisive spot kick to send England into a last 4 clash with either the Netherlands or Turkey in Dortmund on Wednesday. And to wrap up sports update, Eritrean sprinter Biniam Guémé won stage 8 of the Tour de France on Saturday at the finish line where former French President Charles de Gaulle is buried. Guémé became the first black African to win a stage on the Tour de France. On stage 3, overnight leader Tadej Pogacar retained his 32nd lead over Remco Evenepoel in the general standings, while defending champion Jonas Vingegaard is third. Congratulations to Biniam Guémé. And that wraps it up on Sports Update and Favor.
And that's a wrap on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigeria's power grid has collapsed for the 4th time in 2024. The federal government of Nigeria has denied a signed Samoa deal is linked with the LGBTQ. We also told you that Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso have irrevocably turned their backs on ECOWAS. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms. That's DSTV channel 422, Star Times Channel 274, Apple TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Dapo Adegboye. Good night.